talking to an informed audience who will be particularly interested in what we have to say today. Phil, is it possible to put up the slide of the photo of our speakers while I introduce them? We're going to hear first from Megan Faye Benizer, who manages the Sustainability Tracking, Assessment, and Rating System, the STARS program, for the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. She's been with AASHE for 3 years and in the sustainability field for 12. So she'll give us our overview presentation. Next up, we'll hear from Judy Nelson from Arizona State University, where she manages the Commuter Options Program and has been in the Parking and Transit Department for 14 years. Before that, she was with Maricopa County, which has a mandatory regulation for employers in the county. She was instrumental in implementing and now manages ASU's UPass program, and she's also instrumental in bringing Zipcar to ASU. She's responsible for making sure that all 4 ASU campuses comply with the trip reduction ordinance and ADA policies. So that's Judy. And then we'll hear from Sarah Hendrix, who's a Senior Research Associate at the Center for Urban Transportation Research at the University of South Florida. She co-directs the New North Transportation Alliance, which is the Transportation Management Association, at the heart of which is USF. In her research, her fields of interest include growth management, transportation demand management, and alternative transportation solutions. So, well-informed, thought-provoking speakers with lots to share with us. So let's give a listen and be thinking about the questions that we'd like to ask them later. First up, Megan.
Thanks so much, Donna, and thanks to everyone for joining the presentation today. I'm thrilled to be able to participate and to share with you all some highlights about my organization, AASHE, as well as the STARS program. It's great to see that so many of you today are from universities. For those of you who are not familiar with AASHE, I'm just going to give a very quick overview of the organization, then dive into a little bit more detail about the STARS program and what we're finding out from the STARS data. So first of all, our long name here is the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. AASHE has been around for about 6 years now, and we serve as a professional home for those within higher education that are doing sustainability work. That could be faculty, that could be staff or students, but essentially we create resources to hopefully help make the lives of sustainability staff easier, and obviously to help sustainability programs increase across the country. So obviously this is, in terms of what we're trying to do for our audience, is providing a lot of different resources as well as to grow our community. STARS is now one of our most popular programs. It stands for the Sustainability Tracking, Assessment, and Rating System. STARS has been around now. We launched it in 2010, so it's just been live for a couple of years. But it really started several years ago, probably about 5, when there was a real need for institutions to find a common way to measure campus sustainability. And that's really where the idea of STARS was born, was from a number of different higher education associations that really were hearing a number of claims from institutions about being the greenest in one aspect or another, but there was no consistent way to understand what that actually meant or how to benchmark institutions against one another. So STARS is a voluntary self-reporting framework, so it's a self-assessment. It's meant to be a guide for determining how we can advance sustainability in all sectors of higher education. Again, it's sort of a consistent way for us to measure what sustainability in higher education looks like. And perhaps a really important distinction here is when we say that this is a sustainability rating system, what we mean by that is we're using the triple bottom line to really identify what that means, which is to include social, economic, as well as environmental indicators. So this is not strictly an environmental rating system, but again, it includes social as well as economic dimensions as well. So that's sort of the high level of what STARS is. And again, the intention here, you can't brag about what you can't measure. A lot of institutions, I think, are really striving to figure out where do we stand and how do we improve, and where are sort of the benchmarks that we need to be striving for. And STARS has really brought a great amount of significance, given that it's a national system, so that institutions and individuals really trying to implement sustainability measures have some backing, that AASHE, being a national association, has created the system to help institutions identify where they can improve. In terms of what the system is and what it is not, given that it is higher education, and inevitably there's going to be some level of friendly competition, that's certainly going to be around, but it's not something that AASHE is trying to perpetuate. So basically, AASHE is really trying to have collaboration be the focus of STARS as opposed to competition. And a little bit more about that is the system is a rating system as opposed to ranking. So we're not saying this is the best school and this is the worst school, but rather providing an opportunity for any institution that's registering for STARS to gain positive recognition for the efforts that they're doing. So any institution that's registering for STARS is taking a step in the right direction in terms of basically being public about their sustainability information. And given the fact that there are a number of other higher education rankings out there, we want to make it clear that this is where STARS is a bit different. And again, the focus really is on sharing this information, making the STARS information publicly available so that institutions can learn from one another, share best practices, as well as lessons learned. And already that's what we're finding is now that STARS has been around for a couple of years, institutions are now using the same terminology when they're talking about various things, whether it's energy conservation, water conservation, or various other various initiatives. There's sort of common metrics and sort of strategies to be able to relate to one another. So who can participate? You can see the bulk of our participants are in the US and Canada. And that's been the case basically since we launched in early 2010. Any higher education institution in the US or Canada could participate. But an important sort of initiative that we started last fall is that we started an international pilot. So you can see that there are several institutions around the world. I think we have 9 different countries represented at this point in time. The international pilot is hoping to give AASHE more information about the role that STARS can play at the international level, if at all. What AASHE is really challenged by is trying to come up with one system that fits everyone's needs, no matter the size of the institution, the location of the institution, or all the other variables. It's challenging. So I'm not too sure how relevant all of the STARS indicators will be from country to country. But again, the idea is if the tool can be useful elsewhere outside of the US and Canada, AASHE wants to basically help share this tool as a resource for other institutions, no matter where they are. So hopefully the international pilot will give us a lot of understanding about the needs of institutions throughout the world. So now diving into the next level of detail in terms of the STARS credits and what the system actually looks like. There are 3 primary categories in STARS. The first is education and research, and I apologize, obviously the print is pretty small here. This is basically just to give you an understanding about how the system is organized. So education and research is the first category, and there are a few different subcategories within that. Co-curricular education, curriculum, research, and within each subcategory there's a number of different credits that institutions can pursue. The second category is operations. Operations has the most number of subcategories and the most number of credits. There's a lot happening within operations, and this is where I'm going to spend much more time in just a couple minutes. The third is planning, administration, and engagement. This is where a lot of the social indicators are coming up. Diversity and affordability, human resources, public engagement, investment, etc. The fourth category that's not here is basically innovation, and that's an opportunity for institutions to claim points for initiatives that are not captured elsewhere in STARS. So that's how the system is organized. In terms of scoring, institutions can earn various points for the number of credits that they achieve. And essentially, the final score is calculated by averaging the 3 categories and simply adding on the total number of innovation credits that they've achieved. And again, the innovation credits recognize new or innovative strategies that are not sort of recognized elsewhere within the STARS system. So this is basically how the scoring works, and then the end result is institutions can earn a rating. The ratings are precious metals, so bronze, silver, gold, platinum. The STARS reporter rating here is a really important one because essentially what AASHE wanted to provide was an entry point for any institution, no matter where they are in their sustainability progress, if they're just beginning or if they're, excelling in terms of all of their initiatives. So the reporter option allows institutions to publicly share their information without having to make their score public. So essentially the focus is on the actual sustainability data that they're reporting and not the number of points that they've earned. This provides an opportunity for institutions, if STARS seems overwhelming to them, they can say, you know what, we're only going to report on the operations section because that's what we've been doing the most in. And this STARS reporter option allows an institution to basically be flexible in terms of what they want to report on because, again, they're not getting scored. Availability of STARS data. I've mentioned this a couple times thus far. Essentially, once an institution submits all of their information through the online reporting tool, it then becomes publicly available. And again, apologies for the small screenshots here, but the first image at the top of the slide here is our STARS website, stars.aashe.org, and the circle here is around a tab that says Rated Institutions. So anyone can go to this website, look at this list, and click on any individual institution. Once you do that, that second image on the slide here shows you essentially the summary page that comes up that gives you a sense of how the institution scored within the system. Again, if the institution is a STARS reporter, essentially those percentages on the right-hand side of the bottom image, they would not be there. So again, it really is a great opportunity to learn more about what institutions are doing and to be able to understand what your institution could be doing better. So in terms of the accuracy of STARS data, because STARS data is a self-assessment, AASHE has incorporated 3 ways to ensure that the data is accurate. The first is that there is a responsible party required to sign off on each individual credit. The second is that the highest ranking executive, the president or chancellor, is required to submit a letter with the STARS submission, verifying the accuracy of the information. And finally, all of this information, again, goes public on our website. So I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a president or chancellor that's willing to put their name on something when they know it's not accurate. But in any case, this is a really great opportunity to make sure that institutions are doing the best that they can do in terms of being forthcoming about their sustainability initiatives. But the fact that the information is public is also allowing institutions to hold one another accountable. Because obviously, human error happens, so that we also have a way that institutions can correct mistakes in their public submission, and for individuals at other institutions to sort of raise a question or concern about data that's been submitted by another institution. So this is something we take very seriously, and there's always room for improvement, so I can share a little bit more about that later. So now digging into the next level of detail, probably what many of you are most interested in, when we look at the operations section, which is probably of interest to most of you here, what we're learning about from the data that's been submitted. This slide here basically shows sort of a hierarchy of the number of points that are being claimed in the various subcategories within operations. So at the low end here, 20% of the energy credits, 20% of the possible points within the energy category are being claimed. And then upwards at the high end there, grounds, 71% of the possible points that an institution can earn in that subcategory are being claimed. As you can see, transportation is basically right in the middle. So 39% of the possible points within the subcategory transportation are being claimed. So this gives you an understanding of sort of the distribution of how institutions are scoring throughout these various subcategories. And now on the next slide here, we can talk a little bit more about what we're finding from the specific credits. This is just diving another level deeper into the specific subcategory of transportation. One note about this slide, you can see on the left the credit number, OP 14, 15, and 16. Those are what we call Tier 1 credits. And a Tier 1 credit basically is, it allows you to get any number of points. In this one, it's 2, 4, and 3 possible points. But Tier 1 credits, wherever possible, are trying to get at a measurable outcome. Whereas Tier 2 credits, the rest of the list on this page, those are, for the most part, recognizing strategies, which are great and we want to recognize, but it is not necessarily as easy to come to a measurable outcome. So Tier 2 points are, Tier 2 credits are worth fewer points. You can see they're worth 1/4 of a point each. So given that, what are we finding in terms of the data that has been submitted thus far? And over 250 institutions have submitted for a STARS rating, so quite a few. What's interesting is we're finding that STARS participants are scoring the lowest in the operations category. And at first that was really, really surprising to us, because you think with green building initiatives, with waste reduction initiatives, etc., all these great things, you would be thinking that institutions are scoring so great. Well, the truth is, I think institutions have obviously come a long way. But in terms of the field, we have the most history and the most sort of metrics around the operations section. So in a sense, the operations section, institutions are scoring the lowest because the bar is already set higher than in education and research and in planning, administration, and engagement, where those are two areas that we're not, as a field, we're not necessarily as used to measuring what sustainability looks like in those areas. So it's interesting that even though some great things are happening across campuses in terms of, various operational aspects, but the data is showing us that, again, there's still a lot of room for improvement. Another fact here is four-year institutions are scoring higher than two-year institutions. For those of you that are familiar with the ACU-PCC, or the American College and University President's Climate Commitment, those signatories are scoring higher in the climate subcategory, perhaps not that much of a surprise. And as I'm sure all of you can understand, local or regional opportunities and challenges, such as access to public transportation, contribute to the scores, whether it's on the high or low end. Winding down here, so results in the transportation section. What we're finding, the highest scoring Tier 1 credit is the campus fleet credit. The highest scoring Tier 2, mass transit, telecommuting, and condensed work week. So the most number of institutions that are completing STARS are getting credit for those three areas. The lowest scoring Tier 2 credits, cash out of parking, local housing, and carpool discount. So what does this mean? I mean, this tells us a little bit about some of the regional challenges, but it also tells us that there are some institutions that I think there was 80 institutions that have implemented car sharing programs, but that's not topping out as one of the higher Tier 2s, or obviously one of the lower ones yet. So these are just sort of the highs and lows, but there's several things from car sharing to prohibiting idling that are sort of middle of the road. So lots of room for improvement in terms of what institutions could be doing here. And that's actually a good segue to what's next, because my time is winding up here. STARS is absolutely on a path of continuous improvement, and we absolutely recognize that the system is imperfect. So as a result, we want to welcome any feedback on areas that we can improve the system. This fall, we're likely going to have a public comment period, because we're about to go through the first major revision since we first launched 2 years ago. That will be STARS 2.0. And we'll have a public comment period that puts out there the draft revisions to the credits that we're thinking of, to ask, what do people think? And even outside of that, at any point in time, we welcome feedback at stars@aashe.org, our email address. Lastly here, just reiterating benefits of participating in the program. It's about positive recognition. Again, recognizing that every institution needs to start someplace. STARS is an opportunity for them to get positive recognition for what they're doing. Streamlines reporting. Now you can have all of your information in one place, and it just helps to have an understanding of in every aspect of your campus. This is what needs to happen in terms of sustainability. It allows you to benchmark with peers, collaboration across campus because there's so many different departments involved, access to the online reporting tool, which is a great feature, and then it saves time and money in developing a sustainability plan or report because that's essentially what STARS is. So at this point, this is just some contact information, but we can be sure to share this again later. I guess we'll get to some questions later, but that's it for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan. I wasn't aware of STARS and can already think about how we might use that with some of the colleges and universities that we work with here in Massachusetts. But let's move now to hearing about the innovation at a couple of specific institutions. And first up, Arizona State. Judy?
Hi. Good morning, everyone, from Arizona State University in Tempe, Arizona. It is a beautiful 67 degrees here.
Ooh.
And I think it's supposed to be 83 today. But don't ask me about the summer. So welcome to Arizona State University. We have 4 campuses here. And one, our main one is in Tempe, and then we've got one in downtown Phoenix, 10 miles to the west. We have one in western part of the valley, and that's 25 miles to the west, and then we have our Polytechnic, which is 25 miles to the east. But we are, as our president says, one university in many places, so anything that happens at our main campus in Tempe will happen at all 4 of our campuses. And I would like to credit President Curl on this because of him, ASHE was one of the first to introduce the sustainability degree, and we are just looking to be completely green by 2025, which is pretty exciting. And I think he doesn't want any cars on campus. I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, in Arizona, we have a law that states that you have to reduce the number of single occupant vehicle miles traveled or the number of SOVs on the road and to your campuses or to your workplace. And this includes both students and employees. We have over 70,000 students, and we have approximately 10 to 15,000 employees. So as you can see, our enrollment tops 70,000, but we still have below 20,000 parking spaces because we do focus on sustainability. So that presents to us a real challenge. How do we get the students from point A to point B? I am located in the parking and transit offices, so we have the parking and we have public transit. And then we introduced a new concept this year called the EcoPass. In order to obtain an this is for those transit riders who only drive in a couple of times a year, and we didn't want them paying for visitor parking, so we introduced to them an EcoPass where they can buy this pass and allows for 25 all day in that parking for their closest location, and it's been a huge success this year. All we've gotten back is positive feedback. If you want to know any more about that, my contact information is going to be at the end. We were the first to introduce car sharing to Arizona, the whole state of Arizona, and I will say this, our rival university, U of A, just got car sharing, even though they're not going to Zipcar, but we're really proud of our program. We have well into 4,000 members and a total of 19 to 20 cars, and we put these cars at every single campus. Obviously, we have public transit. We introduced the U-Pass to our students and the Platinum Passes to our employees. And what we do is we started out in the pilot program, and it was free, but we had to, due to keeping it sustainable, we had to start charging. So we charge our students $150 for the academic year. If they were to go buy that from the transit, it would be over $600. And we pay on a tapping system. For instance, every time a student taps their U-Pass, we pay a certain amount. So it's being very, very highly subsidized by the Parking and Transit Office. It's truly unfortunate that ASU does not have a transportation fee at this time. We hope to get one in the future. Obviously, we offer carpooling. We use the share the ride services through our Valley Metro services, and They allow for us to, if you put your ASU.edu address in there, then it will try to match you with, only with someone in the ASU community, or you can just put that you want to be matched with basically anyone. We are looking at a couple of other programs for our students, such as Zimride, since they are partners with Zipcar. We don't offer discounted rates on carpoolers, unfortunately. We don't quite have that technology to do that, but we do offer preferential parking spaces for those who carpool, and that's extremely popular to our students and our employees. And we offer this at every campus, so nobody's being left out. Bicycling, we can get a total of well over 19,000 plus bike riders into just the Tempe campus. And so this presents a real problem with where do I lock my bike? And we also are addressing a new problem with the bicycling and the skateboards, and I don't know if anybody else at other campuses has this problem, but it's becoming a safety hazard for our pedestrians. When you have every class getting out at exactly the same time and people are trying to bike through the campus and skateboard and they have the long boards, people are getting hit. So we are trying to create what we call pedestrian safety zones and asking our bicyclists to dismount. This year is a pilot, so we are not having any enforcement in terms of fees, but our student government got on board and said, hey, we want to do this, and we want it to come from the students. So we have signs out, we stand out at the corners, we hand out information. We said, you know, you've got to get off your bicycle or your skateboard, you've got to walk it with the rest of the students. And during low peak times, where there's no breaks in classes, we have no problem with you riding them throughout. In addition to our public transit and our mass transit, we have intercampus shuttles. Now, I said the West Campus is 25 miles to the west of us. And if you were to use public transit, even with light rail here in the state, it would take you 3 hours with the transfers of the buses. So, once again, parking pays for this. And we provide every half-hour service. We go through a private vendor between the Tempe, our downtown, and our West Campus, and back and forth, and that's from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night. We average well into the thousands for the service that we offer. In fact, it's getting so crowded that this year we have actually left people behind because it wasn't safe to put everybody on the bus. So now we have a new challenge that we need to work on. Our Polytechnic campus, which is on the east side of the valley, we also offer them every 45-minute service because there are no buses going out there, public buses to get them out there and back. So we do offer that. And this year we're opening new dorms, new rec centers, new dining halls on our two outlying campuses. Our downtown campus is serviced by light rail, so that's not such a difficult one to get back and forth to. And they can buy their light rail U-Pass, and we pay for most of that. We have partnerships with the state of Arizona, with the city of Tempe, who's a terrific partner, the city of Phoenix, where we have our downtown campus. It's huge. We're going to move our law college down there. They're looking at getting 20,000 students within the next 3 years to that campus. Right now they have probably 10,000 students, and they're starting to find the same issues that we're having at our main campus, which is bicycling and too many people, and getting from point A to point B is becoming hard for them. Our Polytechnic campus is actually located in Mesa, where our Gateway Airport is, and they've been a great partner. You have to partner with other entities, and as those of you who are in universities know, that in order to apply for grants, you probably have to have a municipality partnering with you. So fortunately, we have great partners with these folks. We're still trying to do bike share and get them interested in bike share, but that's something we are working on. And then, of course, ASU is known this year for their solar. We've actually put in for a couple of achievement awards on the solar. If you were to come visit our campus, which we hope you do, you will see every parking structure, every parking lot, almost every building has solar panels, and what a better place than in Arizona where it's 360 days of sunshine. So we are hoping what this is going to do for us, and we know that it most likely will, is that we're going to end up selling energy back to the utility companies so we can have a wash in terms of those kind of bills, especially when it costs well over $80,000 just to light one particular parking structure. So we're very excited about that. We're very lucky to have a president who is very, very green, very sustainable, and wants to move forward with all of this. So that's my presentation, and I know we're taking questions at the end. Thank you, Phil. Donna.
Judy, thank you. I feel warmer already, having learned about Arizona State. Next up, also nice and warm, we have Sarah Hendrix, who's going to tell us about what's going on at USF. Sarah.
Thanks, Donna, and good afternoon. I'm going to talk about some of the transportation-related services and programs that are offered at USF. I serve on the Sustainability Initiatives Steering Committee that advises our USF Office of Sustainability. And I just wanted to say, Judy, that here at USF, we're always interested in what Arizona State University is doing. So we consider you guys the leader. So anyway, at Qatar here at USF, we do research in the TDM field, but Qatar is a research and academic department of the university and not part of campus administration. It's the various offices within university administration that has the power to implement some of the more effective transportation programs, such as parking management. And our role at Qatar with respect to university operations is limited to providing technical support and advice when asked for it. USF doesn't necessarily act on our advice. Also, as Donna had mentioned, I co-direct the New North Transportation Alliance, also known as NNTA. Geographically, the university is in the middle of the NNTA service area, and NNTA has been in existence since 1994 with USF as one of its original partners. And I remember back in the beginning of our work with USF as part of NNTA, and I would say that our USF partner treated the whole idea of transportation demand management back then with a great deal of caution and skepticism. Our first NNTA chairman was the director of the USF Parking Services Department, and today, 18 years later, our new current chair once again is a USF representative, and she's the Assistant Director for Facilities Planning and Construction. And over the years, there's been a lot of changes. Here, this first slide, you see our university president, Judy Genshaft, signing the American College and University President's Climate Commitment in 2008. That was at the first Going Green Tampa Bay Expo held at the USF Sundome. And I've been at USF since 1992, advocating for TDM and alternative transportation on this campus. And I would say that the signing of the climate commitment really galvanized USF administration to take sustainability seriously. And as a result of signing the climate commitment, the university provost established the USF Office of Sustainability. It is staffed, and this is the office that keeps sustainability efforts on the campus very focused. And the climate commitment also reinforced effort on the part of various administrative departments to take better notice and to understand what transportation demand management is all about. Let me start off with showing you the percent mode share for commuting to the USF Tampa campus for students, staff, and faculty. These were inputs to the AASHE Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System. This data was collected through a survey that Qatar conducted in 2010, and that was to establish a baseline. And this was used by the Office of Sustainability to calculate emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, using the Clean Air, Cool Planet Campus Carbon Calculator spreadsheet. And as you can see, the numbers are not real strong. Emissions from commuting contribute about 18% of the total greenhouse gas emissions generated by our campus. And then after you add Scope 1 transportation, as well as air travel into the total transportation contribution of emissions. Transportation is second only to energy consumption as the greatest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions generated by our campus. So despite that USF earned a STARS gold rating last year, and I would add it was very well deserved based upon the many other related initiatives and activities on campus, we still do have our transportation work cut out for us in the future. And like most other universities, Megan, as you said, USF also scored the lowest on operations. To see how the USF Tampa campus stacks up against the STARS transportation criteria, which is the table to the left on the slide, what we see is we're doing really great with regard to offering alternative transportation programs, services, and incentives. And I'll talk a little bit more about those. The table to the right shows where we need to keep working to improve student, staff, and faculty mode split towards other transportation modes. Our campus fleet is making some really good strides in converting to alternative fuels. With regard to a cash-out parking is not bundled as part of compensation at USF, so we don't offer the parking cash out because everybody already chooses whether to purchase a parking permit or use other modes. With regard to improving proximity of local as well as on-campus housing, that's a long-term effect, and part of our campus master planning effort is beginning to address that. Also, the campus does not have an idling policy, although here in the state of Florida, there is a law that prohibits idling, so that would probably be some low-hanging fruit for our campus to pursue that, a policy. Let me back up just a bit to mention briefly some of the contextual factors that affects how the university responds to TDM solutions. What happens outside the campus borders really affects USF, and I think, Megan, you had mentioned that in your presentation, that local and regional opportunities and challenges really contribute to how well campuses can effect changes for sustainability. So, for example, with our economic recession comes, I think, a mindset that we need to focus on economic recovery, and then, road widening projects are seen as part of that. Already, the Tampa Bay area is dealing with documented climate change impacts with regard to average seasonal temperatures, and we're getting some very weird effects. For example, we're having sinkholes opening up on major highways, and a lot of these things really kind of divert attention away to long-term solutions that TDM offers. We have a lack of public support for public transportation. Last year, the county voted down a referendum that would have provided significantly increased transit service. Our new governor rejected federal funding for high-speed rail. We have a notorious reputation in Tampa Bay for a very difficult, unsafe place to walk and bike. And then last year there had been an opportunity for a tighter smog ruling with regard to Clean Air Act, and that was not acted upon. That would have been an incentive. So that's kind of give you the outside context. With regard to University of South Florida, probably the main thing to say about our campus, the Tampa campus, is it's very large. Acreage-wise, it's a super block. It's 1.5 miles long by 1 mile wide. Today, the campus serves over 40,000 students, so we're like a small town, really. The campus has over 20,000 parking spaces with very uneven parking utilization. But as the campus population continues to grow, students, staff, and faculty have historically complained about the lack of parking. The campus was originally envisioned as a regional commuter campus in a suburban setting, but the student population is much larger than ever anticipated, and it's continuing to grow. What you see here is 4 campus master plans over the years. There's been an evolution in the thinking about how the campus should be developed. And sustainability was the theme of the most recent campus master plan update. Campus master planning is required in the state of Florida for all state universities, and this has proven to be a great tool for integrating TDM into plans for the campus. The most recent master plan was adopted this past December and places a greater emphasis on pedestrian and bicycle improvements. University of South Florida, it struggles with the parking issue, speaking more in terms of presently in terms more of relocating parking to the periphery, but also there is a greater consideration now for reducing the rate of parking supply increases and more seriously considering the cost of providing for parking garages. We did a dot density map of student and employee residential location, and it shows that there really are a lot of people that live within walking and bicycling distance of the campus, and this bolstered motivation to develop pedestrian and bicycle improvements to the campus. This is one of many maps in the current plan looking to fill in the gaps where bicycle lanes are needed in the internal campus roadway network, and these gaps are being completed as funds become available. Now, because of the recession, the state budget crunch has really hit the state university system hard. We've got a lot of budget cuts facing the campus, so funds really are not available. And so right now, our facilities planning and construction people have turned their attention to the possibility of putting down shared lane markings, also known as sharrows, and putting them down along the streets to guide bicyclists and communicate to motorists to expect to share the road with bicyclists. There has also been greater emphasis to provide more bicycle parking, most recently in front of our main library and the rec center, although this has been something of a challenge because sometimes the bike racks are placed very far from building entrances, or there may be claims that there isn't enough space to add more bike parking. So it's kind of like a two-step forward, one-step back situation. To compensate for our challenges to get infrastructure in place, we have some great programs, such as the Student Run Borrow Our Bikes free program. You can borrow a bike for free, and you can also receive free bike and skateboard maintenance at their shop. We also have promotional campaigns like the Tampa Bay Cycle. We have free Walkwise pedestrian safety presentations. We have League of American Bicyclist safety classes that have been brought to the campus, and there's been much recent attention to providing safe bike and pedestrian connections from the campus to adjacent communities. And this is through working with the county, with the Florida DOT, and neighboring communities. Like Arizona, Judy, West Central Florida is very hot. We're also very humid, and I would say that from April through October, the heat makes it very unpleasant to walk through campus. And one of the best recent efforts underway is the planting of thousands of native live oak trees along sidewalks to make it possible to walk on campus, and that's instead of driving from parking lot to parking lot, which is what many people do. And this map shows the plan for tree planting. And so just to give you a sense of the changes over the years, when I first came to USF in 1992, this is kind of what it looked like. The campus had kind of a scorched earth look. And now the campus has really seen a transformation that is continuing. This past January, USF Tampa campus was designated as a Tree Campus USA by the Arbor Day Foundation. So we were very pleased about that. About 10 years ago, USF implemented a pilot circulator service, and that has grown into what is now the Bull Runner Shuttle, or Bull Runner Transit. There are 6 routes that circulate on campus, as well as connect to apartment complexes to the north and to the south of the campus. There's also a connection to a shopping mall to the west, and also to the Hillsborough Area Regional Transit Transfer Center that's also on the west side. Students ride fare-free on the Bull Runner, as well as we have a U-Pass for riding the regional transit service, which is also free. At the beginning of fall semester in 2010, a ride-sharing service called Zimride was introduced to USF. Zimride is a ride-sharing service that helps organizations establish easy-to-use private social networks for ride sharing. And so this is a ride matching service only for USF students, staff, and faculty. And the goal is to develop a critical mass of users that are sharing rides so that they can save money and reduce energy consumption. Zimride was brought to USF through Qatar originally. However, it has since been funded jointly by USF Parking and Transportation Services Department, as well as Student Government and the Office of Sustainability. So we're very pleased about that. And we're also connected as what is known as trusted partners with Florida State University in Tallahassee, University of Central Florida in Orlando, and Hillsborough County Community College. So that makes for a network. It's an expanded network, making it more useful for planning longer distance trips. And presently we have about 2,700 cumulative users. We also have a car sharing at USF through Enterprise Car Rental. The program is called WeCar, and this service was originally launched on campus through Qatar as part of a value pricing pilot research study. There's 2 locations on campus where the cars are parked and available for students, staff, and faculty. WeCar is very short-term car rental, so you can rent the car by the hour for a very reasonable cost, and that includes the gas, maintenance, and insurance. And this eliminates the need for a car if you have to run errands during the day. So it's a strategy to enable people to use alternative transportation to campus. As of this past semester, WeCar is now in contract directly with the USF Parking and Transportation Services, and they provide the parking spaces for the WeCar. But over the duration that Qatar had been more directly involved in administering the program, we saw an upward trend in memberships and car rentals, with highest use during the fall and spring semester, and then it dropped off somewhat in the summer session, which I think could be expected. This work in providing a whole menu of alternative transportation options to USF, just the students, staff, and faculty, it resulted in recognition as the best workplace for commuters. And this is a valuable honor because membership in BWC places the university among peers, where there can be information sharing about campus transportation issues and how to address them. So this is a list of the current gold-rated universities. And if you're interested in learning more about this program, you can look at the BWC website at bestworkplaces.org. And you can also talk with Julie Bond about the advantages of membership and the application process. One of the really big changes that has taken place since the signing of the AASHE Campus Climate Commitment is the increased recognition on the part of campus planners and administrators of how important it is to collaborate with regional and local partners. Years ago, the campus planning philosophy was more like, well, we're just going to concentrate on what is happening within the campus and not get involved with adjacent neighborhoods and planning areas that's beyond our control. So that's changing now because the campus, it's not an island, and that's being recognized. The campus affects its neighbors and vice versa. I think part of the hesitation is that collaboration takes a lot of time and effort, and it makes your life complicated, but the payoff is potentially great. There's a lot of opportunities to collaborate, for example, with our Hillsborough Metropolitan Planning Organization to prioritize sidewalks and bike facilities to make the area safer, to work with the Hillsborough Area Regional Transit Authority to improve regional bus service and connect better to the campus, and also to work with our Regional Planning Council to introduce electric vehicle infrastructure. Presently, the campus just recently introduced 2 electric vehicle charging stations. There are all kinds of local opportunities to collaborate also. I'll just name one here. Directly to the east of the campus is the city of Temple Terrace that has been designated by the state of Florida as a citywide multimodal district, and that allows it to prioritize pedestrian mobility over automobile level of service. Temple Terrace also was honored last year as one of only 19 cities in the nation by FHWA as a walk-friendly community. So Temple Terrace has put in a lot of effort, for example, to develop bicycle facilities, and that makes for opportunities to link our campus to Temple Terrace through bike routes. So this kind of brings me back to parking. The USF Tampa campus has a lot of alternative transportation programs, services, and incentives. What we lack is a truly functional regional public transit system, and as a result, parking supply on our campus has historically been a planning priority of campus administrators. In the Tampa Bay area, getting around without a car is a big challenge. And so with the most recent update to the campus master plan, what to do about parking was hotly debated amongst campus planners and their consultant. And what they came up with was a list of parking goals and objectives, and I'm providing here a summary version of what is in the master plan. But it's beginning to recognize the need to restrict parking on campus. And this is politically very difficult. Our top administrators are always pushing for more parking, particularly more parking garages. And this comes from the main complaint that top administrators hear when they receive calls from students and parents of students. The complaint is lack of parking on campus. And so over time, the goal is to continue to strengthen alternative transportation options, both on campus and off campus, primarily to support public transit improvements and at the same time not provide new parking as the campus continues to grow. So in summary, activities to promote effective implementation of TDM at the USF Tampa campus depends on several things. It depends on us continuing to educate our decision makers and secure support from our top administrators, to make extra effort to know what others are doing. That's collaboration internally within the campus. We've got all these different departments that need to communicate with one another, in addition to collaborating outside of campus borders. We need to consider trade-offs with longer-term perspective, and I'm thinking here particularly with regard to building parking garages, very expensive parking garages. We need to market alternative transportation effectively, particularly keeping in mind communicating and working with our student government. And also, lastly, I would say register campus community to vote. There's a need for more political support towards supporting public transit improvements in our area. And so with that, here's a couple different places where you can find some more information. I'm providing the USF Facilities Planning and Construction page where their master plan is, and a lot of TDM language actually got infused into this master plan. The USF Office of Sustainability has information with regard to transportation improvements on our campus and some of the things that we're doing. And then Cutter also has information. And here's my contact information in case you want to contact me. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. Really interesting comparisons of different institutions and how they have addressed the issues and the challenges. So audience, now it's your turn. Thanks for your interest and attention as our speakers were walking us through their presentations, but now we'd like to hear the questions that you have, and I'm going to indulge myself in moderator's privilege and go first and go back to Megan. And Megan, can you share with us some overview of kind of where STARS is at this point, how many institutions are participating, and any observations you might make about whether particular geographic areas or sizes of campuses or locations of campuses predominate? Who's participating in STARS now?
Yeah, we have a lot of institutions. Let's see, I'm just pulling up some of the stats from our website. So current participants, we have, I would say 280 or so. Some of those institutions have already renewed their participation. So basically from when we started STARS 2 years ago, to date, we've had 443 institutions register. But again, of those institutions, several are participating every year. So I think what we're finding is that institutions, all sizes are participating. So, 2-year institutions, 4-year institutions. There are some states where we don't yet have institutions participating. I'm really excited to hopefully have a school in Montana or North Dakota or South Dakota. So if there's any individuals on the phone today from those states, we'd love to get some STARS participants from those areas. But other than that, I'd say the trends were a lot of schools in California, but then the bulk of our participants are really sort of, on the eastern half of the country, east of the Mississippi, pretty much. In terms of other statistics, well, like I said, I mean, we have major research institutions participating. We have small liberal arts institutions participating. So no matter what type of institution you are, you're likely to have a similar type of institution participating in the program already. And on our website, we have several different data displays that allow individuals to go and sort of do a sort as to various characteristics. So if you wanted to find out how many STARS participants are also signatories of the ACUPCC, you could do that. If you wanted to do a sort on just learning what institutions are from community colleges or scoring, you could do that. So there's a lot of different benefits on our website. Some of them are for AASHE members only, others are for STARS participants only, but there are several things that just anyone in the public can also see. I guess just a couple of other thoughts in terms of sort of the growth. We're seeing, like I said, a number of institutions using STARS on an annual basis. Something that I didn't mention during my presentation, but now's a good time to reinforce. A STARS rating, so again, the bronze, silver, gold, platinum, or reporter, that is valid for 3 years. After that, the rating expires, but an institution can participate as often as once a year. So, for example, either one of the institutions that spoke today, both who earn STARS ratings, they, like many other STARS participants, are faced with, okay, do we want to do this assessment once every 3 years, or do we want to do it more often than that? For institutions that do it on an annual basis, there's a 50% discount in participating, and mainly that's because we think that, I mean, imagine trying to do a project only once every 3 years. There's not a lot of capitalizing on lessons learned from the last time. So participating on an annual basis and keeping that data accurate and sort of up to date is going to help institutions the second, third, fourth time around the STARS process. So hopefully, Donna, that answers some of your questions. Is there anything else that I didn't get to?
No, that covers it.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in with one more question here while our audience gets organized with their thoughts. I was struck in the comparison between Arizona State and USF in terms of attitudes about parking. And Judy, I wonder whether this is has the attitude about constrained parking always existed at Arizona State? Is this a change over time? Is it a function of trying to listen carefully to whether there was, it sounds as though there's more robust transit available in your region, but just struck with the enlightened attitude about constrained parking at your institution. I wonder if you could comment on where that comes from.
Sure. And before I do that, I want to do a shout out for AASHE. They do one of the best conferences I have ever attended. So if you've never been to an AASHE conference, I would highly, highly recommend it. Okay. On to the parking.
Thanks, Judy.
You're welcome.
When's the next conference?
It's this October, the 14th through the 17th in Los Angeles.
Okay, shout out done.
Okay. So, you know, when I first came to Arizona State University, we only charged about $120 for parking, and we were not even mid-level, mid-market level. And because of the growth here in Arizona, we now charge $780 for the year for parking. It's a lot of money. So, but that money does go towards all the programs. So people, you know, once the economy tanked and gas went up, folks are going, you know, we can't afford this. We don't have a mandate for freshmen that they can't bring cars to campus, but we do encourage them not to bring cars to campus because of all the transit and transportation that we provide. So we've really had to work on changing the attitudes. Arizona is a widespread, look at my car state. So just being able to change their attitudes has been really a miracle for us, because we just go out and go, you know, we have this for you, we have this for you. And then, of course, with the increase in gas prices, it has completely changed people's attitudes about bringing a car. Now, I will say this, our outlying campuses, our West Campus and Poly, they do have ample parking. However, they don't have a lot of transit to them, so unless the students, and these past couple of years, the students have been having to take classes on every single campus, which is why our shuttles are so popular, because they're free. And so we just go park your car. It's cheaper to we charge on every campus, by the way, but we said, you know, if you can afford a West permit, which is a couple $100 lower than the Tempe campus permit, we recommend that you do that and catch one of the shuttles. So that is basically how we've been able to change some of the attitudes towards parking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sounds good to me. Phil, do we have any questions on the phone?
Not yet.
Not yet. We've been so persuasive that we have minimal questions here. How about, Judy, do you think that the fact that the Maricopa County ordinance exists helps focus your campus leadership on needing to be aggressive about sustainable transportation options, or is this kind of built into the culture?
Well, I think it helps. I'd say it might influence us by about 25% because there are fines associated if you do not. Plus, if you do not participate. Plus, they have a lot of an awards program that's given, Clean Air Awards, that's tied to the trip reduction program. So that helps a lot for recognition for a lot of, not just for universities, but for a lot of the campuses. We just completed our annual survey, and that has been a little difficult because it's worded in legislation that it's nobody knows who's filling out the survey, but you're required to have 60% return. And we're going, okay, well, that tells us we have to know who didn't return it. But I will say this, a lot of our attitude at Arizona State University is the fact that we are so sustainable. We believe in it. We have the degree. We have our AASHE STARS program. We're gold level. And again, President Crow was one of the first to start up the climate control organization. He is one of the first presidents to sign it, and that's huge because everything today is about sustainability.
Hear, hear. Do any of the presenters at their particular institutions have any experience or do any work with teleworking, asks one of our attendees. Any telecommuting going on?
Well, this is Sarah. Here at USF, individual departments can have teleworking policies as well as compressed work week. So that is permitted and allowed. And really what we would like to see is class scheduling done in a way to even out the parking demand. There's a lot of potential there to deal with lack of parking in certain areas and at certain times of the week if we did that. And there's some resistance on the part, unfortunately, of USF faculty to offer more classes on Fridays. And so that's an area of resistance with regard to that. But there are a number of people that both telework and use compressed work week here.
And this is Judy at ASU. We have a new program that started a couple of years ago with online classes, which is huge for our student population, our graduates, in our graduate program. And we do offer telecommuting to our employees, but every department gets to make their own rules about it. We have our general overall rules and risk management. However, a department director can say, okay, my employees can participate in them and my employees can't. But I'm real proud of our online classes that our students can now take.
Sounds good. Phil, I understand we have some questions on the phone?
Yes. We have the first question is coming from Arlington, Virginia. Last four numbers 9020. I'm going to open up your line and go ahead when you hear the beep. Ask your question, please. Go ahead and ask your question, please. Arlington, Virginia. Okay. Next question will come from Burlington, Vermont.
Hello, this is Joya Thompson, University of Vermont, and we're with other people from Burlington. We're in Burlington area, including Champlain College and our TDM, our TMA, and looking at this is for Megan, talking about the STARS credit, and specifically the one about cash out of parking. Mm-hmm. Have you considered changing that look at the next version of STARS? Are you looking at changing that category? To us, it seems like it's too narrow and specific.
Yes, I'd say pretty much everything's on the table for sort of considering doing revisions for STARS 2.0, but certainly some of the tier 2s in transportation. Yeah, we've heard some concerns about that one. I think we've also heard some concerns about the carpool matching and some of the other pieces. So I'd say in general, we're certainly looking at trying to figure out how to improve the tier 2s in general, but especially within the transportation section. So absolutely, I think they'll likely look a little bit different. And just as a reminder, whatever revisions we're working on, that will go for public comment. So you'll have a chance to weigh in and let us know if you like it or if you don't.
Okay, and we have another question coming in online. One of our participants would like to know what the critical points were to getting students to approve fees for development of the UPass program for no-charge transit access.
Sarah, are you there?
Okay, well, let's see. Critical points. Well, here at USF, the student government votes, or they can hold a referendum with regard to whether or not to enact a student fee. And so student government was able to rally support for that. This happened probably, I think in 2001, so it's been several years, and unfortunately, I can't really remember a lot of the specifics surrounding that.
Okay.
At Arizona State University, we unfortunately do not have a student fee. We set out and approached the Valley Metro and said, hey, we notice your buses aren't carrying people during the day. We'll make you a deal and we'll give you this much money if you let our students on for free. For 3 years, we did not charge students, and because of tuition increases and other fees, we have not been allowed or given permission to charge any fees, which that's why we turned around and started charging UPass fees to the students. It started at $40 a semester. Now it's at basically $75 a semester to help cover our costs, because we are paying for the whole thing out of parking and transit budget. Unfortunately, the first student government did try to, you have to get 4,000 signatures from the students. By the time they were able to do that, it was the end of the year and the student government was phasing itself out for the next election. So unfortunately, ASU has not been able to do that.
Okay. We have a question from online for Megan. Is the STARS rating initiative going to supplant the AASHE report card, or has it already done so?
So, a couple of clarifications. STARS is definitely a program of AASHE, but the report card, the College Sustainability Report Card, is a program of the Sustainable Endowments Institute. I'm guessing that's what the question's referring to. So there are two separate programs, but actually AASHE has been collaborating with SEI, the Sustainable Endowments Institute, that puts out the report card, as well as the Princeton Review, as well as Sierra Magazine, all of which do their own separate rating or rankings to try and make it much easier for institutions to report their data and to share data with those organizations. And there's some new information on the AASHE website about the Campus Sustainability Data Collector, which is basically a free version of the STARS reporting tool, so that it enables STARS participants that are already participating in the program or institutions that are not yet participating in STARS to share their data with those organizations. So you can see our website for more information about that. So the idea is that, again, AASHE is collaborating, recognizing that there's always going to be a number of different ways that people are going to sort of rate or rank campus sustainability, and we're trying to make sure that individuals and institutions aren't sort of overwhelmed by surveys, that in fact STARS data can be a source of information to these other organizations that are doing their own sort of analysis. Hopefully that helps to answer the question.
Yep. I have another question from someone who wanted some clarification from Sarah about did we hear that there's a transit fee at USF, and if so, its cost? I guess we're back to the EcoPass.
Yes.
How do you control on-campus restrictions, and how do you control carpool preferential parking?
Okay, with regards to the carpool preferential parking, that was started about 2 years ago as a pilot, and it has since remained as a pilot. There are policies in place, but presently it's not well used, and it's because the incentives aren't strong enough to make it a good deal. And so the policy probably needs to be tweaked, and then the carpool preferential parking incentive needs to be advertised better. So at this point, there's not a whole lot to report on that until we're able to make the policy stronger and more effective, to make it more desirable to use the preferential parking. But the idea is to provide carpool spaces closer to the front door of wherever your destination is, and also have a discount on the parking permit as well. Now, I think it sounded like there was another question as part of that, something about the student transit access fee.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a transit access fee, and how much is it?
There is a student transit access fee. I'm wanting to say it's something like about $3 per credit hour. That's a guess. I had been looking on some information earlier today, but it was out of date. And at the time, I think they started out as $2.75 per credit hour. I'm sure it's more now, but that perhaps gives you a ballpark.
There you go. Well, as we come to the time that we have said this next conference will take, I think we'll respect everybody's time commitments today and wrap things up. For those of you that would like copies of the handouts, notice the icon on the upper right of your screen that looks like a couple of pieces of paper. The handouts can be downloaded there, along with contact information for our speakers, who I know would be happy to answer any additional questions you may have offline. So, if I could ask all of you out there that have been participating with us, give an electronic silent cheer for our speakers. Thanks so much, Megan, Judy, and Sarah, for sharing with us what institutions are doing more broadly and what your universities are doing to enhance sustainability. Truly some impressive examples of what folks are trying to do. We very much appreciate you being so generous about sharing what you've learned along in the process. For all of you that have been participating, thanks so much for your attention and your interest. May I ask that you please take a few minutes to fill out the survey, which is available online. Whenever you give us feedback, it helps us do a better job on our next NET conference. So with that, I wish you good speed and continued success in your sustainability efforts. Thanks, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.